My name is Gabriella Hayes. I'm 34 years old, and until this spring, I believe stability wasn't something you stumbled into. It was something you built, carefully, quietly, without leaving cracks that could collapse later. That belief shaped everything: my work, my routines, my relationships, especially my judgment. Or at least, I thought it did. Daniel Carter was 30. We had been together a little over 3 years, living in Nashville, Tennessee, in a townhouse I bought long before I met him. The mortgage was in my name. The utilities, the gate access, the parking tag, everything tied back to me. From the outside, we made sense. We had rhythm, structure, the kind of relationship people point to and assume is moving forward. Daniel was charismatic in a way that didn't demand attention, but always seemed to receive it anyway. In the beginning, that felt easy, natural. He could walk into a room and soften it, make everything feel lighter. That part of him was effortless to love. The part that came later required interpretation. Daniel had a habit, not loud, not dramatic, but precise. He used distance like punctuation. Not always the word goodbye. Sometimes it was, maybe I should just stay somewhere else tonight. Other times, I think we need space, or you'd probably be happier without me. It always came at the same moment, right when a conversation started leaning away from his control. At first, I thought it was insecurity. By the third year, I understood it was confidence. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was certain I would follow. And for a long time, I did. A delayed reply because I was stuck in traffic meant a cold evening. Asking what time he'd be home from drinks with coworkers turned into me checking up on him. Mentioning that he'd missed another dinner with my family, while never missing a rooftop invite with his friends, became me creating pressure. Every issue twisted just slightly, just enough that I ended up apologizing for noticing it. And still, I stayed. Because when things were good, they were very good. Because I hate chaos. And because after a while, managing someone else's mood starts to feel like stability. The night it ended was a Tuesday in early April. My mother had a retirement dinner scheduled that Saturday. Small, private room at a steakhouse in Franklin. Just family and a few close friends. Daniel had known for weeks. We were sitting outside a taco place off 12 South when I asked casually, "Are you still coming? My mom's finalizing the head count." He set his drink down slowly. Looked at me like I had asked the wrong question in the wrong language. "You really want to do this here?" he said. I blinked. "Do what? Confirm dinner plans?" He leaned back, that familiar expression settling in. Tired, slightly amused, like I was missing something obvious. "I just feel like lately everything with you is pressure," he said. "Family dinners, future talk, where I am, where I'm going." There was a pause. Then calmly, too calmly, "Maybe we need to say goodbye for a while." No emotion, no hesitation. Just a sentence placed between us like a test. For a second, everything went quiet. Not externally. Internally. Like something I had been holding for years. Finally set itself down. I looked at him. Really looked. And realized I wasn't confused. I was just finished. "Then goodbye," I said. He blinked. Not dramatically. Just enough to show the shift didn't match the script he had in mind. "Not forever," he said quickly. "I mean space." I stood up, pulling cash from my wallet and placing it on the table. "You said goodbye," I replied. "I'm just respecting your wording." His expression changed faster this time. Surprise, then irritation. Then that small, controlled smile. "Gabriella, don't be dramatic." "I'm not," I said. "Have a good night." I walked away before he could adjust the tone, before he could soften it, before he could pull it back. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already lighting up. 4 missed calls. 3 texts. "Come back." You know what I meant. "Don't turn this into something it isn't." I didn't answer. I drove home in silence, parked in my garage. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't hesitate. I started packing. Not angrily, not chaotically, carefully. His clothes first, folded, sorted. Then shoes, bathroom items. His cologne still lingering faintly in the air as I placed the bottle into a box. His watch on the nightstand. The stack of books he said he'd read but never did. The coffee mugs he insisted were ours, even though I remembered buying them alone. Each item went into a container like it had always belonged somewhere else. By 9:28 p.m., I sent a single message. "Your things will be at the leasing office tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Do not come here tonight." He called immediately. I declined. FaceTime. Declined. Then a message. "I didn't mean we were breaking up. I just needed breathing room. Why are you acting like this?" I stared at the word acting for a moment, then locked my phone. At 9:52, my security app lit up. Front door camera. Daniel. He must have taken a rideshare straight from the restaurant. He knocked once. Then harder. then rested his forehead briefly against the door, like he was trying to step back into a version of the night that hadn't happened yet. "Open the door, Gabriella," he said. I spoke through the camera. "No." He stepped back, looking directly into it now. "Are you serious right now?" "Yes." "You're overreacting." "No," I said quietly. "I'm done reacting." Something in his face shifted. Not anger. Adjustment. His voice softened, almost amused. "Come on," he said. "I said for a while, not forever." "That's the problem," I replied. "You thought goodbye was something you could borrow." Silence. Then frustration. Then nothing. He sat outside my door for 20 minutes. I watched the entire time. And for once, I didn't feel pulled toward him, only away. After Daniel finally left my doorstep that night, the silence inside the townhouse felt unnatural at first. Not painful, just unfamiliar. Like a room after a machine stops humming and you realize how long you had been living with the noise. I locked the downstairs windows, checked the front door twice, and stood in the kitchen for a minute with both hands flat against the counter, breathing through the adrenaline that had arrived late. My body was still catching up to the decision my mind had already made. I didn't cry. That surprised me more than anything. For years, I had assumed the end of a relationship like ours would be messy, loud, tearful, full of second-guessing and regret and long paragraphs typed at midnight. Instead, what I felt was sharper than sadness. Relief. Clean, immediate, and almost disorienting. I slept badly, but not because I doubted myself. I slept badly because I kept waking up expecting another ring alert, another pounding knock, another message demanding that I explain why I had finally taken his word seriously. By morning, I was tired but steady. I showered, got dressed, and carried the boxes downstairs one by one. 4 boxes, 2 rolling suitcases, 1 garment bag, and a canvas tote full of skincare products and electronics chargers he somehow managed to leave in every room of the house. The leasing office opened at 10. I got there early. Janelle, the morning manager, was already behind the desk with a clipboard and coffee in hand. She listened without interrupting, while I explained that my now ex-boyfriend had ended the relationship the night before, was not on the lease, and needed to collect his belongings through the office only. She didn't blink. She asked if he had ever been added to any paperwork. No. She asked if I had it in writing that I had revoked access. I have screenshots, I said, already opening my phone. I emailed them to her, while she printed a property release form and had me list the bins and bags. The whole process felt strangely administrative, which was probably why I liked it. Structure had always calmed me. Facts, lists, signatures, things that meant what they said. At 10:52 a.m., Daniel texted from a number I had not yet blocked. "Are you really doing this?" I didn't answer. At 11:07, he sent another. "This is humiliating." Still nothing. At 11:58, he arrived. Sunglasses, baseball cap, head lowered as if discretion could turn consequences into misunderstanding. He walked into the leasing office with the controlled stiffness of someone who had spent the entire morning convincing himself he was above the situation and then found himself living inside it anyway. I was standing near the side counter, signing the final inventory page when he came in. He saw me. I saw him. Neither of us smiled. Janelle did most of the talking. She asked him to verify his name, sign for receipt, and confirm that he understood he no longer had resident access to the property. His jaw tightened at that. He signed anyway. While one of the maintenance guys helped him load the suitcases into a friend's SUV outside, Daniel turned back toward me. His expression was composed, but I could see the heat underneath it now. The insult, the disbelief that I had carried this through without cracking. "I hope this makes you feel strong," he said. His tone was quiet, designed to sound contemptuous but wounded in the center. I looked at him and realized something I probably should have realized much earlier. He still thought this was a performance. He thought I had done all this to prove a point. "No," I said, "just peaceful." For the first time in months, I meant that with my whole body. He stared at me for a second longer, then turned and left. I thought that might be the part where the story shifted into absence. I was wrong. The first message came from his older sister, Melissa, around lunchtime that same day. Unknown number, but I knew immediately who it was. Daniel had used her before, whenever he needed someone softer to come in after him and mop up the emotional damage. The text was careful. "He didn't mean it like that. He's staying with me and he's a mess. Can you please just talk to him?" I leaned back in my office chair at work and read it twice. Then I typed one response. He said goodbye. I agreed. There's nothing to discuss. A minute later, she replied, 3 years isn't nothing, Gabriella. Neither is being threatened with space every time there's a problem, I wrote back. Then I blocked the number. That evening, Daniel moved to email. Subject line, "You are taking this too far." The contents were exactly what I should have expected. Half blame, half regret, all entitlement. He said I had humiliated him by packing his things. He said healthy adults know how to take time apart without making dramatic decisions. He said if I had loved him, I would have known what he meant. That line sat with me for a while. If I loved him, I would know what he meant. Not what he said, not what he chose, what he meant. Meaning, in Daniel's world, had always been his property. My job was to translate, to interpret the mood, soften the edge, decode the contradiction, and hand him back a version of himself that sounded kinder than the one standing in front of me. It wasn't love he had expected from me. It was labor. I closed the email without replying. 3 days later, one of his coworkers messaged me on LinkedIn. I almost laughed when I saw it. LinkedIn. As if professionalism could disguise intrusion. "Hey, I don't want to be in the middle, but Daniel seems really broken up. He said this all got misunderstood. Maybe a conversation would help." I replied with one sentence. "There was no misunderstanding. Please stay out of it." He never answered. Daniel, meanwhile, kept testing the edges. Small requests, small openings. He filed a mail forwarding request, then emailed to ask whether 2 packages had still arrived for him. He wrote that he needed 1 pair of black dress shoes for an event, and asked if I could just leave them outside the front door for 5 minutes. Just 5. He added that surely we could be mature enough to handle that. I wrote back once. "Anything remaining will go through the leasing office." His response came 20 minutes later. "You're treating me like I'm dangerous." I read that and felt a cold, specific kind of clarity. Dangerous was not always loud. Sometimes it sounded reasonable. Sometimes it wore restraint like a costume and waited for you to open the door yourself. I didn't answer again. Then came the first fake emergency. Saturday, 11:18 p.m. A new email address. Subject line, urgent. He wrote that he thought he had left medication in my bathroom drawer and needed it that night. He added that if I cared even a little about his well-being, I would respond immediately. I went upstairs, opened the drawer, and checked. No medication, just an old lip balm, 2 cufflinks, and a charging cable. I stared at them for a moment and felt something harden quietly in me. Not cruelty, not revenge, just recognition. He was still trying to see which version of me remained accessible. The guilty one, the responsible one, the one that heard urgency and forgot pattern. I put the items into a padded envelope the next morning, dropped them with Janelle, and sent one reply. "Anything remaining has been left at the office." That should have ended it. Instead, it offended him. On Monday afternoon, Janelle called me while I was at work. Her tone was measured, but there was something almost amused under it. "Your ex is here," she said. "He's claiming he still lives at the property and that you locked him out during an emotional dispute." I closed my eyes for a second. Did he say emotional dispute? Those exact words. In the background, I could hear Daniel's voice. Low, polished, controlled in the way he always became when speaking to strangers he wanted on his side. It was the voice he used with restaurant hosts, with sales reps, with anyone he believed could be steered by charm and vague concern. Janelle asked me one question. "Was he ever on the lease?" "No. That's all I need," she said. When she called back 10 minutes later, she told me he had left without access. An hour after that, I got a text from yet another number. "You're trying very hard to win something that shouldn't be a competition." I stared at that message for a long time because it captured the whole distortion perfectly. He still thought we were inside the same argument. Still thought this was a negotiation between 2 people with equal claims over a shared ending. We weren't. He had mistaken my old patience for permanent participation. The week after that got quieter on his side, better on mine. At work, my director pulled me into a conference room late Tuesday afternoon and told me I'd be leading a software migration project for 3 clinics outside Nashville. More responsibility, more visibility, a raise if rollout went clean. I said yes before he finished explaining the numbers. It felt good to say yes to something that did not come with emotional conditions attached. I also started sleeping again. Not perfectly, but better. No more lying awake listening for Daniel's key in the door. No more bracing for the exhale he used to make when he wanted me to know I had disappointed him without telling me how. No more studying his tone the way some people study weather. The house started sounding like mine again. The coffee maker at 6:40 a.m. The dryer humming on Sundays. My own footsteps on the stairs with no second pair behind them. Then Thursday night happened. At 11:41 p.m., my Ring app lit up. I opened it, expecting maybe a delivery car or a cat crossing the driveway. Instead, I saw Daniel's car parked across from the guest spaces near the mailboxes. Engine off, head down, phone glowing in his lap. For a second, I genuinely didn't move. Something in the stillness of it unsettled me more than the pounding at the door had. Not because it was louder, because it was quieter. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed with a voicemail. I played it. His voice was low, calm in that eerie way people get when they have fully convinced themselves they are the reasonable one in the story. "I can see your office light on," he said. "You're awake. I just want 5 minutes. Don't make me sit out here like this." I replayed that line once. "I can see your office light on." The words pressed cold against my ribs. Until then, I had been treating everything as a breakup with too much noise around it. After that voicemail, it became something else. Not grief. Not drama. Documentation. I saved the voicemail. Then I called non-emergency police. By the time an officer drove through, Daniel had already left. But the voicemail existed. The timestamp existed. The camera footage existed. And standing there barefoot in my kitchen at almost midnight, phone still in my hand, I understood with perfect clarity that this story was no longer about whether he regretted saying goodbye. It was about the fact that he couldn't accept hearing it back. The officer I spoke to that night didn't sound alarmed. He sounded practical. That, more than anything, steadied me. "You don't need to prove he's a bad person," he said. "You need to show he won't stop." That sentence stayed with me longer than the call itself. The next morning, I didn't hesitate. I got dressed earlier than usual, skipped coffee, and drove straight to the precinct before work. The building was plain, fluorescent lit, nothing like the dramatic courtroom scenes people imagine when they think of escalation. Just a front desk, paperwork, and people quietly dealing with situations they never expected to document. I brought everything. Screenshots of his original message, my response, the emails, the leasing office notes, the LinkedIn message, the voicemail about my office light, and the ring footage. Him at my door, and later sitting in his car across from my house like he still had a claim to proximity. The desk officer made copies without commentary. When I finished, she looked at me and said, "Send one final message, clear, direct, no emotion. After that, don't respond again." So I did. At 12:06 p.m., I sent it. "Do not contact me again by phone, email, work, social media, or through other people. Any further contact will be documented." He replied in under 2 minutes. "So now I'm a threat?" I didn't answer. For 2 days there was silence. It almost felt like resolution. Then he came to my office. Reception called upstairs mid-morning. "Gabriella, there's a man here asking for you. He has a gift bag." I walked to the railing that overlooked the lobby and saw him immediately. Daniel, cream sweater, clean-shaven, calm posture, the version of him designed for forgiveness. He held the bag loosely at his side like it wasn't the point. Like he wasn't the point. Like this was something soft, something reasonable, something I was supposed to accept. I felt something shift inside me. Not fear, recognition. I picked up the phone next to me and called reception. "That's my ex," I said. "Please ask him to leave. If he refuses, call building security." There was a pause. Then, understood. He refused. Of course he did. Security escorted him out 10 minutes later. As they walked him toward the door, he raised his voice just enough to carry. "I was trying to apologize," he said. "She won't even let me explain." A performance. Controlled, measured, just enough volume to shape perception. It cost him more than he realized. By the afternoon, HR had documented the incident. Building management issued a trespass warning. I added both to a folder I had created in my cloud drive. I named it simply Daniel. It wasn't a joke. It was structure. The noise didn't stop there. It changed shape. His sister tried again, this time calling my mother. That was a mistake. My mother, Elaine Hayes, is the kind of woman who can end a conversation politely while removing every option you thought you had. She called me afterward. Only one question. Did he end it first? Yes. There was a short pause. Then he can sit with his own goodbye. That was it. No lecture, no doubt, just alignment. I didn't realize how much I needed that until I heard it. An unexpected call came 3 nights later. Daniel's mother. "Margaret." I almost didn't answer. I assumed it would be blame, pressure, a softer version of the same narrative. Instead, her voice sounded tired. "Daniel told me it was one misunderstanding," she said. "That you overreacted and forced him out." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. "That's not what happened," I said. "I figured," she replied quietly. "Tell me your version. Once." So I did. No emotion. No embellishment. Just facts. He said goodbye for a while. I said goodbye. I packed his things. He kept contacting me, showing up, messaging, sitting outside my home, coming to my workplace after I told him not to. There was silence on the other end. Longer than I expected. Then she exhaled. "I'm sorry," she said. "You won't hear from me again." And I didn't. That conversation stayed with me. Not because it fixed anything, because it confirmed something. Not everyone needed convincing, just clarity. Daniel, meanwhile, moved to a different stage. Social media, indirect, carefully worded, vague enough to avoid names, but specific enough that anyone who knew us could connect the dots. Posts about being abandoned, about emotional coldness, about people who punish honesty. One mutual friend, Jordan, sent me a screenshot. "Is this about you?" I didn't explain. I sent one image back. His message. "Maybe we need to say goodbye for a while." Jordan replied 10 seconds later. "Never mind." A week later, Daniel escalated again. This time in person. I was meeting Brent from work at a coffee shop in East Nashville. We had a standing habit. Same place, same time, quick review of project timelines before heading into the office. Daniel was already there, sitting by the window. Like he had arrived early by coincidence. Like he had no idea I would walk in. Our eyes met immediately. He smiled. "Can we talk like adults for 5 minutes?" he said. I didn't sit down. "I said everything I needed to," I replied. Brent stepped beside me. Not aggressively, just present. "We're leaving," he said quietly. Daniel let out a small laugh, like we were both overreacting. "I never even got to say goodbye properly," he said. That line stayed with me longer than it should have. Because it wasn't true. He had said goodbye. He just hadn't expected me to accept it. We left. I didn't look back. In the parking lot, I didn't hesitate this time. I called a lawyer. The consultation cost $350. Worth every dollar. He reviewed everything. Messages, timeline, footage, reports. Then he looked at me and said, "You have enough." Enough for what? For a formal cease and desist, he said. And if he continues after that, a protective order. There was no drama in his tone, just process. He drafted the letter for $425. We sent it certified the next morning. Daniel signed for it on a Friday. By Monday, he violated it. New email address. Subject line, "You're turning me into the villain." I didn't read past the second paragraph. I forwarded it directly to my lawyer. That afternoon, he filed. And for the first time since that Tuesday night at the taco place, I felt something close to certainty settle in my chest. Not about Daniel, about myself. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was documenting. And documentation doesn't argue. It accumulates. The hearing was scheduled 6 weeks later. Long enough for everything to settle into routine. Long enough for the tension to shift from immediate to procedural. People imagine court as something dramatic. Raised voices, emotional speeches, a final moment that feels like closure. It isn't. It's fluorescent lights, quiet rooms, hard benches, and the strange experience of watching your worst weeks reduced to paper. I arrived early. My attorney was already there, a thick binder in front of him, tabs separating each section with clean precision. Timeline, screenshots, email threads, ring footage stills, leasing office documentation, workplace incident reports, the cease and desist letter, the violation that followed. It didn't feel like a relationship anymore. It felt like a case. Daniel arrived 10 minutes later. He looked curated. Navy button-down, neutral expression, calm posture, the version of himself built for credibility, the version he believed strangers would trust. He didn't look at me when he sat down. I didn't look at him either. There was nothing left to read in his face that I hadn't already documented. When the hearing started, it moved quickly. His attorney spoke first. He framed it exactly the way I expected. "My client made an emotional statement during a tense conversation," he said. "Miss Hayes responded by abruptly ending a long-term relationship and has since interpreted attempts at closure as harassment." Closure. That word again. Soft, flexible, convenient. The judge didn't respond immediately. She flipped through the binder slowly, reading without interruption. Then she looked up. "Mr. Carter," she said, "did you continue contacting Miss Hayes after she told you in writing not to?" Daniel straightened slightly. "There was context," he began. "Emotions were high. I believe the relationship deserved—" "That's not what I asked," the judge interrupted. A pause. "Yes," he said, "but only because—" The judge raised a hand. "Only yes or no is required." A yes. Silence settled over the room for a second. Then my attorney slid one page forward. The voicemail transcript. The judge read a single line out loud. "I can see your office light on. You're awake." Hearing it in that room, stripped of tone, stripped of familiarity, it sounded exactly like what it was. Not concern. Not affection. Observation. The kind that doesn't ask permission. The rest moved quickly after that. The certified mail receipt. The follow-up email sent after he signed for it. The workplace incident report. The trespass warning. No exaggeration, no emotional language, just sequence. The judge turned to me. Miss Hayes, she said, have you initiated any contact with Mr. Carter after your written instruction? No. Has he ever been on the lease, deed, or mortgage of your residence? No. Do you believe the contact will continue without intervention? Yes. That was all she needed. The order was granted for 1 year. No contact. No approaching my home or workplace. No third-party communication except through legal counsel. Minimum distance of 300 feet. Daniel didn't react immediately. He just sat there, staring at the table like he was trying to locate a version of the story that still made sense to him. The tears came later, not during, not when it mattered. Outside in the hallway, his mother was waiting. Margaret looked smaller than she had on the phone, tired in a way that didn't belong to the last 6 weeks. I'm sorry, she said quietly. He kept pushing. I nodded. I know. That was the last conversation I had with anyone in his family. After that, everything became lighter. Not perfect, just lighter. At work, the software migration project went clean. No downtime, no major issues. My director followed through on the raise, $6,500 annually, and added a performance bonus at the end of the quarter. I used part of it to repaint the downstairs office. A soft, neutral color Daniel used to say felt too plain. I replaced the sagging couch he complained about, but never contributed to upgrading. Bought a new coffee table. Simple, functional. Mine. The house changed in small ways. No decorative clutter I didn't choose. No tension waiting behind the front door. No second set of moods to anticipate. Just space. Quiet, steady space. I started sleeping through the night again. That alone felt like a milestone. A few months later, I met someone. Ethan. Nothing dramatic. No grand entrance. We met at a backyard cookout hosted by Brent and his wife. He was easy to talk to, direct in a way that didn't require interpretation. On our 4th date, I told him a simplified version of why my last relationship ended. He listened without interrupting. Then he smiled slightly and said, So, he said goodbye and got upset when you heard him. I laughed. Actually laughed. Exactly, I said. That was enough. The last thing I heard about Daniel came through Jordan. Apparently, he left his job a month after the hearing. Too much overlap. Too many people had seen the office incident or heard some version of it. He moved to another city. A reset. I didn't follow up. I didn't need to. Because the truth is, this was never about where he ended up. It was about where I stopped. Stopped translating. Stopped softening. Stopped pretending that words didn't mean what they said. Some people don't say goodbye because they're ready to leave. They say it because they want to see what you'll do to keep them. They want proof. Attention. Negotiation. Fear. Daniel had been collecting that for years. The night he said maybe we need to say goodbye for a while, he expected the same result. Another version of me stepping forward to fix something he had deliberately unsettled. He expected me to translate it, to adjust it, to return it in a form that worked for him. I didn't. I let the word stay exactly where he placed it. Goodbye. That was all. And somehow that felt like cruelty to him. Because people who use endings as leverage don't expect to be handed one cleanly. They expect resistance, emotion, effort. They expect you to prove their value by refusing to accept their exit. I didn't do that. I packed his things, saved the footage, followed the process, and let the system explain what I no longer needed to argue. Peace isn't always free. Mine cost a $350 consultation, a $425 letter, a few restless nights, and months of documenting things I wish had never happened. Still worth it, because peace after confusion feels different. Sharper, earned. These days, when I pull into my garage, there's nothing waiting behind the door except quiet. No test, no trap, no word hanging in the air, waiting to see if I'll panic. Just home.